I'm
Welcome.
nervous.
Well, excellent. I'm here with, I'm Jack Howell. I'm here with Ryan Toher. Did I say it well enough?
Yep.
Toher, okay. Second in E-flat clarinet in Montreal. And he's here in Pittsburgh playing the E-flat part in Daphnis and second clarinet. And sounds awesome.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely awesome. Just absolutely flawless, rock solid. And so I thought I would take the opportunity to talk to him and kind of be the representative for everybody out there who sees a young player, and you're young. How old are you?
I'm 30.
That's young. Because you did your school. You did Oberlin with Richard Hawkins and Colburn.
USC.
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 Okay.
Yeah, with Yehuda.
And if you're anything like me, you want to know how'd you get this way. So when did you start playing clarinet? Because getting into the Oberlin studio is an accomplishment in itself. You can't have just decided at the last moment that you wanted to play clarinet.
Yeah, I was fortunate. My father played clarinet, so there was an extra one in the house. So in our public school system, we started playing in the 5th grade, and because we had an extra one, it was natural that I played that instrument. And I was very fortunate to have great teachers when I was young. And my very first clarinet teacher, she had studied at Eastman with Stanley Hasty, like a great tradition, and was really informative, instructive to me. And then what was kind of the catalyst to get my interest going in music was I joined the Chicago Youth Symphony.
Okay.
So every weekend, I would take the train from the suburbs into the city downtown for the full day to have rehearsals and chamber music, and so starting to play in an orchestra. And that really piqued my interest and desire to say, okay, I want to really try and do this. And then in the summers, I would pair going downtown during the year. In the summers, I'd go to Interlochen. And that was just a fantastic, it's a boarding arts academy during the year, but in the summer they had a summer camp. I went for 6 weeks for 4 summers, and I just fell in love with the place. It was just so great, and I'm still friends with people that I went to Interlochen with in high school to this day.
I've noticed that a lot of Interlochen alums and a real camaraderie.
Yeah, and a big group of us actually also went to Oberlin, and the nickname of Oberlachen happened, and so that was kind of fun as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So an early start, an enriched environment. Were there any difficulties? Was there anything that you found difficult?
Absolutely. Just kind of the struggles of learning the instrument and being patient. I've never been a patient person in general, and realizing that it'll take more time than what I wanted. I kind of wanted, if I learned something new, it would be very immediate. But if everything was easy right away, everyone would do it. We'd have everyone doing it. And so this is a difficult trade to try and perfect, and I'm nowhere near perfection, but I'm still striving to try and improve. And so that was sort of the most difficult part. Was I was really wanting to try to be towards the end of what I could see. I would want to be in an orchestra, teaching at a university, that sort of thing, and it took a while.
You know, and it would be great, I wouldn't mind at all if you expanded on that just a little bit, because that's something that is an issue for a lot of students, that they're somewhere between the beginning and the middle, and they want to be at the end. You know, they want to be good, but it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Was there, what helped you to be patient with yourself?
I'm sure my teachers would say that I wasn't, so that's hard to answer.
Okay.
But I would say to sort of try and always get to the end, where I always envisioned wanting to play in a professional orchestra, and now I'm in the OSM in Montreal, and I would always try and put myself in the environment to do well. And so when I was at Oberlin, I was studying really hard, but then in the summers I would go and play at summer music festivals. So I would be put in an orchestra of different people all around the country and play rap, so I get more experience. There would be different teachers there, so I get a different taste of what else was out there. Then when I went to USC and studied with Yehuda, I started to now take auditions as I was a grad student, and that could be very intimidating to start taking a professional audition and showing up knowing you're like one of the youngest ones, and there are people there that already have jobs that are auditioning for a bigger job and
Try being
everything.
Try being the oldest.
Yeah, and so so I always wanted to try and put myself in the environment where I knew that I could stay in the game.
Okay. There are two really good parts to that answer. And my daughter was a softball player in high school, and her hitting coach was Crystal Bustos, was an Olympian, and her mantra was focus on the process. The outcome will take care of itself. Focus on the process. If you try and hit a home run, you'll never hit a home run.
Yep. If you're just looking at the end goal as the desire, it's almost further away. And so if you fall in love with the process and enjoy sort of the grind of doing what you're doing, you'll be enveloped in it more, and then eventually the outcome will come as a byproduct.
That's super good advice. But the other part of it that I wanted to draw attention is that the part where you're treating yourself as though you are already that which you wish to become. You're treating yourself as a professional. You know, so that's kind of the yin and yang of this philosophy.
I'm reminded of a great piece of advice that Richie Hawley told me. I spent a summer at the Music Academy of the West in Santa Barbara, and he was like, you're doing everything correctly, and I just started taking auditions, and he was like, eventually you're gonna get a job in orchestra. And I didn't believe him at the time. I was so concerned and everything, and he's like, but right now what you're doing is you're pushing a car down a hill, and you're behind the car trying to push it down. It's gonna get down the hill eventually. You might as well get inside and enjoy the ride.
Yeah. And and I would go a step further, and I would say that I would not be at all surprised if at some point in the next 5 or 10 years I hear that you've won a big principal job. It's that clean. It's the thing I say is I know my weaknesses better than anybody. Do you feel like you have any weaknesses?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you want me to share that on camera?
No. For instance, I will tell anybody who asks. My weakness. I have a tongue like a foot.
Quick articulation, light. Yeah.
That's for me. That's like the serve in tennis. It's the last thing to get good, and it's the first thing to get bad. But it sounds to me like you've got very crisp, very quick articulation. I wouldn't say that's a weakness.
Something I've had to work on and develop. I really would like to try and learn double tonguing. I don't even know how to double tongue, but
just so happens
serve really well.
It just happens to have a video on that.
Perfect. I'm gonna look it up right after this.
And it only took me 40 years.
Okay. Well, if I start now.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. By the time you're my age, you'll be. Yeah. So now you're at Oberlin. What did you learn? What's the most important thing you learned at Oberlin?
Most important thing, I really love studying with Richard Hawkins, and I felt like Oberlin was a great environment where, for those who don't know what Oberlin is, it's a great conservatory in the middle of a cornfield in Ohio. It's pretty isolated, and so I really had the time to just kind of focus on my craft and practicing a lot, and I was surrounded by people who also had the same desires and focus as me, so that motivated me. And so I would say just being in the conservatory environment helped so much in my progression, and I would say that was one of the most important things, was to be in an enriching environment like that with a great teacher.
So what does practicing a lot mean to you? Like 4 hours a day?
Yeah, around there. 3 to 4 hours I would try to do every day in my undergrad, and as well in my grad studies. It can be a little more difficult now on the job, where we have consistent rehearsal. So if we have a double rehearsal in a day, oftentimes I might not practice until maybe late in the evening, only a little bit. But especially when like today, where we just had a dress rehearsal and we have a concert tonight, I'm probably not going to go home and practice much before the concert. And so there's a time in school where you have the ability to have that time carved out before you go out sort of into the work field. And so I would definitely encourage people to take advantage of that. And a piece of advice that was given to me by the repair technicians I was seeing at the time, Bill and Linda Brandon, they were like, you're never going to be in an environment where everyone is there together, all focused on the same thing, where readily available, play chamber music, ask to form a group, read through some quintets, like take advantage of all of that, because, and they were right, after your schooling, it's very hard to come by that naturally.
Yeah.
And so I would take full advantage of that.
That's good. I mean, and that's interesting you mentioned the Brannons, because they're kind of a nexus in the clarinet world.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so now you wind up at USC with what's with this Yehuda Galad guy?
He's pretty great, huh?
Yeah. I mean, evidently, it's like you can't, you pretty much hard to find a clarinet section. And it's really interesting looking through the years how there have been like singular studios because I can remember a time where the Robert Marcellus studio.
Yep.
It was like if there was 4 people in a final, 2 of them would be Marcellus studios.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you get
from Yehuda?
Yeah.
I would say a lot of confidence and flexibility to say what I wanted to say through the instrument. He was always passionate that the clarinet's just the medium for you to share your own voice. And so you don't want to be ever described as a clarinetist, but as an artist, as a vocalist, and then you choose the clarinet to go through you. And so he, of course, has many successful students that occupy great orchestras throughout the country. And so there was a point where we were always just taking audition after audition, and so we were giving ourselves a lot of at-bats going on your daughter's softball thing. And so auditioning is a skill, and to be able to sit down and play an entire list and change from Brahms to Bartok to Beethoven and different characters back to back is different than sitting in the orchestra and playing a week. They're kind of 2 different skills. And so in the studio with him, we became very good at taking auditions, but then also being mature once we get on the job where we can execute the job as well.
This might be a little bit of a tangent, but I was having dinner with a friend, colleague, last night, hi Alex, and we were talking about how important it is to not be a jerk.
Yep.
And I would say you seem like a really nice, it's been lovely having you in the section. Is that something that came naturally, or did you have to have some rough edges knocked off at some point?
No, I would say it's always great to try and be a great person, and Yehuda would have this saying, he's like, in order to be a great musician, you must first be a great human being. And so always treating everyone with respect and care, and so it's not something I had to work for, or but it's not like that everywhere you go. Sometimes it's very difficult within sections to balance relationships, and unfortunately it's not the way. And I'm very fortunate in Montreal, where I love my colleagues, we laugh so much, we have a great time, and I try and bring that everywhere. When
everybody treats it as their job to make everybody else's day go better,
that's a great way of putting it.
It's really, and it's super important. And I've heard that a number of places, and I think that's what you're describing is maybe that's a studio environment. That the studio is expected to be that way, and it's expected to, everyone is expected to act professional.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many tricks. And it's funny. Somebody else will be saying, "Let me show you this." Oh, that's a Yehuda trick. If you tried the balloon, that's
Yeah, I have a balloon in my case. I take it with me, and so he has all those. Really, I think for me, I was more of a cerebral player, and he wanted more of the artistic, and to try and always pull out of me that, and so to try and get the flexibility and everything to say what I want to say, unapologetically within the right character and time and everything, you know, your own voice, put your stamp on it. And yeah.
Because auditioning is really like an acting audition.
Yep.
You know,
you wear different hats one
like
after another.
Brahms.
Yep.
You know, and it's like Kodai.
And it's so unnatural too. You're a singular player on stage. No one else is with you. You have to create an environment from nothing, and you're really just playing a couple sentences of a paragraph of a chapter of a whole book, and you have to let the committee know you understand at where the story is at that point. And so you're not doing anything that's, you know, not within the tradition of that piece or that time and that sort of thing. And so it's really an unnatural process, but one that, you know, I kind of enjoyed looking forward to the next audition always, like, oh, how can I improve? How can I do this? And a good friend of mine in the studio, he was like, I never got worse preparing for an audition. I always got better.
And you're saying one really valuable thing after another, and I really appreciate it. And I can tell how many people I've talked to that said, oh, I hate auditions. Oh, I just, it's the worst. Why would you choose to hate it?
Yeah.
You know, why not? Do you think Roger?
I would challenge that.
Do you think Roger Federer hates a tennis match?
No.
Do you think he hates being in a final of Wimbledon?
Yeah. One of the best books I read is by Tim Grover. He was the athletic trainer for Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and he had a phrase in his book that said, "Pressure is a privilege." Not many people get the privilege to feel stressed about achieving something great, and so I always would try and welcome that and get excited about what you can't control. You know you're going to go take an audition. You know it's going to be stressful. You know all you can control is your preparation, but be excited about the chance to prove something.
Yeah.
And
I think that's
a little exciting.
I think that's super valuable advice. If you hate auditions, either change how you feel about auditions or find something else to do.
Yeah.
Because you're playing. I've always said that the person who wins is the person who's playing is not only checks the boxes, but says, listen to how much I love music.
Yeah.
Listen to all the cool stuff I found in this.
Yeah. I'd give just one more quote, and it's from Michael Jordan in an interview that he did. He had said before a big game, he'd tell his team, you know, do you have butterflies in your stomach? Good, that means you care. Now just get them all flying in the same direction.
So, when you said, what are you going to ask me? It's like, I had no idea what I was going to ask you. But let's talk about gear for just a minute. Because you might be the first person I see who carries more reeds than I do. What's your process? How long do you get reeds to last? What's your
Sure.
deal?
Especially for E flat. The reeds, I don't do much work on tweaking an E-flat reed. It's so small as it is that it's kind of, I open it out of a box and I play Van Doren, and it is what it is. So I have some that are a little softer, some a little harder, different environments, different halls, different humidity outside can kind of change all that. So I try to have a good array in my arsenal of what might fit, and kinds of constantly rotating, and so I oftentimes during the week won't play the same reed for every concert. I sort of maybe have 2 or 3 reeds that I play throughout the concert series.
Do you have a structured break-in thing, or they just kind of come along?
Yeah, so for B-flat clarinet, I break in reeds. It's kind of like a 10-day process. I'd put like a notch on the heel sort of after every day, and I'd play it very, very minimally at first and sort of gradually build it to where at the end of the 10 days I'm using them in my warm-up at the very beginning of the day, and then after 10 days I start playing them in the orchestra and can play them in rehearsals and then in concerts. And so I don't do much adjustment to them physically, but I would say a slow break-in is probably the best.
What sort of general strength range?
So for me, I'm on a 3.5 plus V12 paired with a B40 lyre mouthpiece.
On E flat too?
No, on E flat I'm playing a Richard Hawkins mouthpiece, the B model, and I'm on a 3.5 V12 Van Doren.
Interesting. Yeah, but because I was kind of at this personal feel that E flat, that just for the high register it takes a little bit
harder,
but
Yeah, and that's so true, especially also for pitch. That if the reed's too soft, the pitch is going to be maybe a little flat up there. You need to also match the piccolo, which can generally be sharp, and so having a harder reed. And so last night I used one of the hardest reeds I have, and it seemed to go all right. So.
Well, Ryan, it's great to talk to you, and it's great to have you here. It's very impressive, and and it speaks well not only to your education, but your personal commitment. Is there anything that you can think of that I should have asked you?
No, I would say it was so at the master class I did at CMU. Someone asked, how do you feel not guilty about practicing, or something along that lines. And I remember sharing something with them where someone had once told me that when you're away from the instrument, try to have as much fun as you can have. And if you decide to take, okay, I'm just going to take a break from practicing today, go out and have as much fun as you can have, so that when you come back, then you're focused, you're energized, and you're ready to go back. And so I would say, as much as I try to be very focused on the clarinet, outside, explore life and have fun, get involved in hobbies. I play sports. That's really fun. And so
what sports?
Soccer. Yeah.
Maybe I've floated this trial balloon in a couple of other interviews, and it didn't go quite the way I thought. But one of my personal beliefs is that resistance to physical stress correlates with resistance to emotional stress or psychological stress. And for instance, when I took my Pittsburgh audition, I made a very conscious decision to be in the best shape of my life.
I would absolutely agree with that. I kind of fell in love with running during COVID because I couldn't really go to a gym and stuff, and so I ended up running a half marathon right when I moved to St. Louis and began the job there, sort of kind of in the middle of COVID. But I now have a conscious everyday workout routine. Harder to do sort of on the road here, but when I'm at home in Montreal, I work out every morning, and it's now just a habit and part of me where even I don't change that for anything else. So even on audition days, I work out in the morning on an audition day. And something like, don't you think that you're going to be tired? No, I'm energized by it. I like it. It helps. It's part of my being, and it certainly helps your mental state. Being physically active helps your mental state a lot.
Yeah.
There's definitely something towards that.
Well, I think I think we could do this for a long time, but I think the internet attention span is only so long. And if we think of anything, we'll just cover it next time you're here.
Appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you so much for having me.
Ryan.
Awesome.